These are the worst meals that will silently decrease your life after the age of 60. And how you may start avoiding them right away. Imagine for a moment that one of the meals you've been eating for years was subtly removing years off your life experience. As we get older, we become more conscious of the state of our health. Nevertheless, there is a concealed risk that many elderly people do not discuss. And that is the fact that the meals you consume on a daily basis gradually wear down your heart, your brain, and your immune system without any evident warning signals. Meals that appear to be straightforward, conventional, or easy, but are actually loaded with the kinds of components that contribute to the development of chronic diseases, inflammation, and premature aging. Over the course of this video, we are going to shed light on 5 of the worst meals for your health over the long run. There are certain meals that, when consumed on a daily basis, have been demonstrated to hasten the aging process and increase the chance of death by as much as 10 years. The most shocking aspect of it all is, the majority of persons over the age of 60 continue to consume at least one of these meals on a weekly basis. This is not about being afraid of eating. There is a focus on knowledge. It is about having an understanding of what is actually contained in the meals that we rely on and how making even minor adjustments today might lead to healthier and longer years in the future. Stay with us until the very end because you will not only discover which foods you should steer clear of, but you will also discover what you should eat instead in order to fortify your body, safeguard your vitality, and experience a greater sense of mastery over your health than you have ever had before. It's time to get started. Breakfast meats that have been processed come in first. The aroma of bacon sizzling on the stove or the reassuring flavor of sausage links served alongside your eggs and toast might evoke feelings of melancholy and a sense of nostalgia. Like that, dinners like that were a regular part of our childhood for many of us. These things bring back memories of weekends spent with family, pleasant mornings, and even breakfasts at a cafe with friends. On the other hand, hidden beneath that well-known flavor lies a significant danger that is frequently disregarded. Particularly in later years, on a regular basis, you should avoid putting processed breakfast meats like bacon, sausage, and ham on your plate because they are among the most hazardous foods you may consume. How come? Because they include components that have been directly linked to heart disease, high blood pressure, and even colorectal cancer, especially sodium, preservatives, and nitrates, which are all found in abundance in these foods. On the other hand, in contrast to a sweet snack or a slice of cake, these meats come with a certain kind of health risk that gradually increases with each mouthful that is taken. Not only is the amount of fat present a problem, but the chemical curing procedure is also a problem. Preserving these meats, giving them their color, and extending their shelf life are all accomplished through the application of nitrates and nitrites. When these substances are ingested on a regular basis, particularly in the body of an older individual, they have the potential to cause chronic inflammation and damage to the blood vessels. A higher chance of stroke, a higher risk of heart attack, and a higher risk of the kinds of chronic illnesses that gradually erode your independence are all consequences of this. However, when you make bacon a regular component of your diet, especially a few times a week, it can add up to a significant amount of calories. This does not mean that eating just one strip of bacon will shorten your life. Please consider it in this manner. Which type of foundation are you laying for the rest of the day if inflammation is the first thing you experience when you get up in the morning? Consider the case of Walter, a 72-year-old man who used to start his day with a couple sausage patties. He had been feeling well up until the day that he suddenly stopped. It was a sudden heart fright that brought the patient to the hospital. And his physician explained everything in detail. Rather than being a matter of genetics, it was breakfast. Although Walter did not totally abstain from eating meat, he did make a shift in his diet by substituting grilled veggies, avocado toast, or eggs with olive oil for sausage. Over the course of a few months, his cholesterol levels and blood pressure both decreased. Moreover, he experienced a sense of improvement, clarity, lightness, and increased control. In the event that you have been accustomed to beginning your day with bacon or sausage, you should think about how frequently you consume it and what other options are available to you. You do not have to sacrifice flavor in any way. The only thing you need to do is give your body a break from the components that cause the greatest harm over the course of time. Always keep in mind that breakfast is the activity that determines the rest of your day and how you age. Second, combo meals from fast food restaurants. There is a certain ease of use associated with it. The convenience of having a burger, fries, and a soft drink all in one bag. The familiarity of the menu, and the comforting taste of the food all in one place. It's not only about the food when it comes to many folks, particularly those who are in their 60s, 70s, or even older, when they grab a combination meal from a fast food restaurant. Simpleness is the key. Regularity is the key here. On the other hand, such regimen might be significantly more hazardous than it seems. The combination meals offered by fast food restaurants are among the most harmful combinations that you can put into your body. This is not only due to the fact that they include a high number of calories, but also due to the packaging of those calories. When you consider the bun and fries, you are consuming refined carbohydrates. Because of the cooking oil, you are exposed to both saturated and trans fats. The soda contains a significant amount of sugar, often much more than what would be found in a full piece of cake. And then there is sodium, which is so high in a single meal that it can cause you to exceed the daily sodium consumption that is suggested for you. It is already problematic to consider each of these items separately. However, when they are combined, they produce what medical professionals and researchers refer to as a metabolic bomb. During a single sitting, these meals cause your blood sugar to soar, your triglycerides to rise, your arteries to become clogged, and your liver to be put under strain. The body is able to recuperate if you do that every once in a while. The problem, however, begins to rewire your body in ways that are tough to erase when it becomes a weekly or, even worse, a daily occurrence. Even more worrisome is the fact that a great number of fast food companies portray these meals as options that are typical and prevalent in everyday life. And for those who are over the age of 60, this normalization results in repetition. To grab anything quickly develops a habit that subtly enhances your chance of developing diabetes, obesity, stroke, and cognitive decline. I'm simply trying to get stuff done. Take for example Sylvia, a 69-year-old woman who, after the death of her husband, began frequenting fast food restaurants. Cooking was a solitary activity. It was less difficult to place an order. What began as a convenient option eventually turned into a dependency. Over the course of 2 years, she experienced a decline in her energy levels, a gradual increase in her weight, and a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes from her physician. Genetics was not the only factor. It consisted of burgers, fries, and soda that had been placed one on top of the other over the course of time. There was no need for Sylvia to undergo a significant change. She began by reducing the number of times she went to fast food restaurants by half. And then she began substituting a home-cooked dinner for one of her meals each week. She observed that the pain in her joints had subsided. Her vigor came back to her. And perhaps most crucially, she got the impression that she was regaining control of something that had been slowly sliding away from her without her knowledge. There is no intention of never going out to eat again. It's important to be aware of what you're putting into your body and how frequently you do so. It is worth reevaluating if the time it takes to order a dinner is 5 minutes. But it can save you 5 years of your life. It makes no difference to your body how quickly you consume meals. Both the frequency with which you bombard it with harmful combinations and the length of time you allow it to recover in between are important to it. I would appreciate it if you could use the second comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. This brings us to the third item: microwave-ready frozen dinners. There is something alluring about the opportunity to eat in less than 5 minutes. You may remove the food from the freezer, place it in the microwave, and consume it, especially when you are living alone or simply too exhausted to prepare. There is no need to do any dishes or preparation. However, a seemingly insignificant convenience may actually come with a significant price tag. An accumulation that takes place in both your brain and your blood pressure each time you hit the start button on the microwave. Frozen dinners that are ready to be heated in the microwave are among the most deceptively dangerous food categories for people of advanced age. Frequently, they give the impression of being well balanced, with meat, vegetables, and even a small dessert neatly nestled into a tray. On the other hand, what happens when you turn the box over and read the label is a completely other tale. It contains artificial colors, tastes, and binders that your body does not recognize and has a difficult time processing, as well as sodium levels that are higher than your daily limit, preservatives and stabilizers that keep it fresh for months, and artificial colors and flavors. Meals that are classified as comfort foods or hearty classics, such as chicken pot pie, Salisbury steak, and meatloaf with mashed potatoes, are the examples of the worst offenders. Even while they can make you think of home cooking, they are not even close to being homemade. The flavor of these dishes is prioritized over their nutritional value. They are laden with sugars that are not readily apparent, fats that are of poor quality, and artificial additions that are supposed to simulate the texture of real food. None of these ingredients are good for your body to process, especially as you become older. This leads to an increase in blood pressure that gradually increases, an increase in cholesterol that is only a few millimeters higher, inflammation that affects your joints, your energy, and even your memory. The process does not take place overnight, but it does take place. In addition, by the time you become aware of the symptoms, the impairment has already started. Consider the case of Irene, a widow who was 75 years old and relied on frozen dinners for almost all of her supper eating. She was under the impression that she was acting in a responsible manner by avoiding takeaway and maintaining portion control. However, when her physician looked over the findings of her test work, she was taken aback. Pre-diabetic blood sugar levels, which are early indicators of renal stress as well. Irene did not consume any fast food. There was no soda in her drink. On the other hand, those dinners that were nicely packaged were gradually wearing her down from the inside out. Irene began to make changes, but she did not begin by preparing meals every night. Instead, she began by preparing large quantities of straightforward homemade soups and stews, as well as storing them in little containers and then reheating them. Her blood work changed, her energy levels improved, and most importantly, she felt nourished rather than just full. She reduced her sodium intake by 50%. There is no problem with the need for convenience. Nonetheless, there is a significant gap between that which is rapid and that which is phony. Although your tongue may not be able to tell the difference, your body is aware of it. Taking a glance at the label, counting the ingredients that you are unable to pronounce, keeping track of the salt, and asking yourself, is this really feeding me or just filling me up? Are all things you should do if you make microwave meals a regular part of your routine. Mainly due to the fact that having food that is designed to last forever has a tendency to shorten the life of the person who consumes it. Dishes like cream-based pasta come in at number 4. When you take a bite out of a bowl of creamy pasta, you feel something that is not only luxurious but also soothing. Whether it's a thick creamy casserole, baked macaroni and cheese, or fettuccine alfredo, these meals offer a sense of comfort and familiarity to the table. There are a lot of us who grew up with them as regulars on the dinner table, particularly around the holidays or when we got together with our families. What is rarely discussed, however, is the potential threat that these foods can provide, particularly when they are elevated from the status of occasional treats to becoming regular meals. The consumption of cream-based pasta dishes is among the most calorie-dense and artery-clogging meals that one may have. They are loaded with components such as cheese, heavy cream butter, and refined white pasta, all of which are known to raise cholesterol levels, cause an increase in blood sugar levels, and contribute to the gradual accumulation of plaque in your arteries. There is more to this than simply putting on a few extra pounds. Creating the ideal conditions for cardiovascular disease, stroke, and metabolic diseases, all of which have the potential to significantly diminish both your quality of life and your longevity, is the focus of this endeavor. Fat is not the only problem at hand. The sort of fat is the issue. Sauces made with dairy products include saturated fat, which adheres to the inside of your blood vessels like grease that has been poured down a kitchen drain. This buildup, over time, causes your arteries to become more rigid and narrow, which makes it more difficult for blood to flow through them. As a result, this results in elevated blood pressure, an increased risk of having a heart attack, and in rare instances, an increased likelihood of developing dementia as a consequence of decreased blood flow to the brain. It is also about the size of the portions. The majority of these meals are delivered in gigantic bowls, which are twice or even 3 times as much as what a healthy adult ought to consume in a single sitting. With the addition of a slice of bread and possibly a glass of wine, you are looking at a calorie load that would require a significant amount of physical activity to be burned off. On the other hand, getting rid of calories is not the focus at this point in life. It is about lowering the amount of stress that your body experiences from the food that it must work extra hard to process. Take for example Larry, a retired worker who was 78 years old and cherished his weekly Alfredo night. He relied on it as a form of solace. However, after suffering a small stroke and receiving a warning from his cardiologist, he came to the realization that those meals of comfort were indirectly putting strain on his heart and brain. He didn't completely abstain from eating pasta. To begin, he began using noodles made from whole grains, which were then mixed in olive oil and herbs, and a thin sprinkling of Parmesan was added. Although it was still tasty, it was much easier on his body. Although he maintained the ritual, he altered the recipe. Also, his labs, energy, and clarity all increased during this time. That is the main point. I wouldn't call these meals bad. However, if they are incorporated into your diet on a consistent basis, particularly if you do not practice moderation or balance, they have the potential to covertly prepare the way for chronic diseases. Even if you don't have to give up pasta, you should be careful about the foods that you choose to eat with it. Make sure to select sauces that are either tomato-based or broth-based. Add some vegetables. Take note of the duration. In addition, it is essential to pay attention to how your body feels after the event, rather than focusing solely on your taste sensations at the time. The reason for this is that a meal that brings you comfort in the present moment should never come at the expense of 10 years off your life. I would appreciate it if you could use the 4th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Comfort food that is deep-fried, crunchy, and tasty comes in at number 5. There is no disputing the satisfaction that comes with biting into a deep-fried food. Whether it be fried chicken, battered fish, hush puppies, or even a platter of onion rings. This is true regardless of the type of meal of choice. These dishes are more than just dinner for a lot of people who are in their later years. They serve as a recall of family picnics or fish fries on Friday nights. And they are a custom that brings a flavor of Southern comfort. What these meals provide in terms of flavor, however, they stealthily take away in terms of years, particularly as we get older. Foods that are deep-fried are among the meals that are the most detrimental to the health of our hearts and metabolism. In addition, it is not only due to the fact that they are high in calories or fat. Because of the manner in which fat is metabolized. This is the case. The majority of commercial fryers make use of oils that are high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fats or trans fats. These fats are able to decompose when subjected to high temperatures, resulting in the production of toxic substances that cause inflammation throughout the body. You are not only going to feel lethargic as a result of that inflammation. A number of conditions, including high blood pressure, insulin resistance, clogged arteries, and even certain types of cancer, are directly influenced by it. Every time you consume a fried meal, particularly one that is provided in a restaurant or a fast food establishment, your body is forced to endure a wave of cellular stress, regardless of whether or not you are aware of their presence. Additionally, it is simple to consume an excessive amount of fried food. The combination of the crisp texture, salty flavor, and comforting warmth creates what scientists refer to as a bliss point. This is a flavor that overrides signals of fullness and urges you to continue eating even after you have reached a point where you are officially satisfied. This results in an increase in calories, fat, and sodium, all of which accumulate in a silent manner with each subsequent meal. Take, for example, Marvin, who was 81 years old and used to spend every Saturday at his favorite diner eating a dish of fried chicken. He reasoned that since it was only once a week, it couldn't possibly be harmful. However, after he underwent his second stent surgery in 3 years, his physician warned that even moderate consumption of fried foods might offer significant hazards when your arteries are already susceptible to cardiovascular disease. Marvin took the decision to transition to meals consisting of grilled chicken, greens, and sweet potatoes that had been roasted. In the beginning, he was missing the crunch, but after a few weeks, he observed something unexpected. He was experiencing less exhaustion after meals, fewer occurrences of blood sugar drops, and improved sleep. He experienced a significant improvement in his health as a result of that one alteration. The fact that you continue to consume fried meals does not imply that you are obligated to give them up for good. However, it does mean that you should be truthful about the frequency with which you consume them, the manner in which they are prepared, and whether or not your body is capable of continuing to absorb that sort of load. One alternative to deep frying is to try air frying. You may try grilling, roasting, or baking. Instead of opting for a crust that is breaded, try adding texture to your comfort meal by using raw nuts, seeds, and roasted vegetables. This is because comfort foods should feed you, rather than forcing your heart to work overtime simply to recuperate. Also, keep in mind that the effects of fried foods are not always manifested in the form of discomfort or symptoms. There are instances when the harm is gradual, consistent, and unnoticeable until it is not. Anything less than that is not acceptable to your future self. Being flawless is not the goal when it comes to eating healthy in your 70s and 80s. Having a purposeful approach is essential. And when it comes to fried food, even slight decreases can bring to significant changes in your energy levels, your labs, and your longevity. Lastly, some thoughts. As we come to the end of this video, I would like to leave you with a question that are straightforward but profound. The dinner that you eat the most frequently during the week is which of these? Also, and this is more essential, how often have you convinced yourself that it is not that bad without actually understanding how much it will cost? The topic at hand is not guilt. The issue is one of awareness. Because deliciousness is no longer the only consideration in the meals that we consume when we are in our 60s, 70s, and beyond. This is all about functionality. One forkful at a time. They are either assisting us in living longer and experiencing a greater sense of strength, or they are working in the background against us. And what is the most challenging aspect? These foods do not have a negative odor or taste. They have a reassuring sensation, considering that they do not trigger alarms. This is the reason why they are so very harmful. In the background, they quietly raise your blood pressure, gradually inflame your arteries, and subtly disturb your metabolism until you begin to experience feelings of aging, weight gain, and fatigue without any apparent explanation. You regain your strength. However, the moment you realize what you are doing, the moment you take a look at what you are eating and recognize it for what it truly is, you are the one who gets to decide what stays and what goes. You have the ability to declare, "My body deserves better," and you should honestly mean it. It is not necessary to completely change your diet in a single day. It is not necessary for you to become an expert in nutrition. You simply need to become more deliberate in your actions. One meal at a time, one substitution at a time, and one way of doing things at a time. Start with what you have on your plate, because the years you add to your life and the life you add to your years are directly proportional to one another. We appreciate you being here with us today. It would be wonderful if you could get in touch with us. Please leave a comment below and tell us about one item you discovered today and how you intend to put it to use in your life right now. We place a high value on your opinions, so please do not be reluctant to share them with us. Our inspiration and encouragement are greatly increased as a result of reading your remarks. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it to be informative and enjoyable. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you in the future video.